The slideshow projector hummed, casting a warm, generic photo of a beach sunset onto the massive screen behind the head table. My brother, Mark, and his new wife, Ashley, were clinking champagne glasses. The reception was in full swing, all pastel colors, fairy lights, and the overwhelming scent of lilies and money. And there I was, walking up to the microphone for my best man's speech, my phone feeling like a lead weight in my pocket. Everyone was smiling at me. My mom gave me a little thumbs up. My dad was already misty-eyed. And Ashley, she was looking at me with this serene, plastic bride smile, like she was the star of her own personal movie. Which, I guess she was. Little did she know, I was about to change the genre from a rom-com to a horror film. I cleared my throat. Hello, everyone. A little feedback squealed, and I adjusted the mic. For those who don't know me, I'm Chris, Mark's older brother. A polite smattering of applause. I smiled, letting it feel normal for a second. Mark and I have been through everything together. But I have to say, seeing him find Ashley has been one of the greatest joys. I looked at my brother. He was beaming. I was about to wipe that stupid grin right off his face. They've been talking a lot about their future, I continued, my voice steady. About building a family. And family is a funny thing, isn't it? It's supposed to be about unconditional love. About accepting people exactly as they are. It's about protecting each other. I paused, letting the words hang in the air. The room was quiet now, listening intently. But sometimes, I said, my tone shifting just a little, people have a different idea of what family should look like. A more curated idea. A more picture-perfect idea. I saw a flicker of confusion in Ashley's eyes. She had no idea. I held up my phone. I was going to read a speech I wrote, but instead, I'd like to share a recent conversation I had with my new sister-in-law. I think it really speaks to this idea of family values. I pressed a button on the little remote for the projector. The beach sunset vanished. And there, projected 10 feet high for all 150 guests to see, was a screenshot of a text message thread. My name at the top, and Ashley's right below it. The room went dead silent. The only sound was the clatter of a fork someone dropped in shock. And then, I read her message out loud, my voice echoing in the suddenly cavernous hall. Hey Chris, so glad you guys could make it. Quick question about the photos. I saw the proofs, and for the main family portraits, the ones we want to frame, do you think you could ask the photographer to, Photoshop Lily out? It's just, her walker is so big and distracting. It ruins the whole aesthetic we were going for. Or maybe he can just make her look like she's standing on her own? Thanks, it would mean the world. Yeah, that happened. To understand how I became the man who nuked his own brother's wedding reception from orbit, you have to go back 6 months. My daughter, Lily, is 10 years old. She's funny, she's smarter than I am, and she loves drawing dragons and watching space documentaries. She also has cerebral palsy. It affects her legs, and she uses a bright pink, custom-fitted walker to get around. It's not a tragic thing. It's just a part of her, like her brown hair or her obsession with pineapple on pizza, which is a whole other battle. She's my entire world. After her mom passed away a few years ago, it's just been the two of us against the world, and honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. When my brother Mark announced he was engaged to Ashley, I was genuinely happy for him. Mark is a good guy, but he's always been soft. A people pleaser. He avoids conflict like it's a physical allergy. Ashley, on the other hand, is the opposite. She's a tornado of opinions, a force of nature dressed in designer clothes. She's an influencer, which as far as I can tell means she takes a lot of pictures of expensive brunches and uses words like aesthetic and vibe in every sentence. In the beginning, she was fine. A little self-absorbed, maybe. She'd talk about Lily's situation in these hushed, pitying tones that made my skin crawl, but I figured she just didn't know any better. I tried to be patient. For Mark's sake. The first red flag came when they were picking the wedding party. Lily, of course, was over the moon. She adores her Uncle Mark. She immediately asked if she could be the flower girl. She had it all planned out. She was going to decorate her walker with ribbons and flowers that matched the wedding colors. It was adorable. Mark loved the idea. Ashley not so much. I got the call from Mark a few days later. He sounded squirmy. Hey, Chris. So, we were talking about the flower girl thing, he stammered. I could hear Ashley whispering in the background. Yeah, I said, already feeling a knot forming in my stomach. Well, Ashley's a little concerned. About the logistics. The aisle is, pretty narrow. And she's worried Lily might, have trouble? Or move too slowly. It could throw off the timing of the whole procession. The timing. He was seriously talking about the timing. Mark, she can move just fine. We could practice. It would mean the world to her. I know, man, but Ashley has this whole vision, you know? The symmetrical look with her two little nieces as flower girls, they're twins. It's an aesthetic thing. There was that word again. Aesthetic. The word people use when they're trying to justify being incredibly shallow. I was pissed, but I bit my tongue. For Mark. Fine. I said, my voice tight. Whatever. She doesn't have to be the flower girl. As long as she's part of your day, that's all that matters to her. Totally. Absolutely, man. Mark said, the relief in his voice palpable. She'll be right there in the front row. Ashley promises. Thanks for being so cool about this. I wasn't cool about it. Explaining to Lily that she wouldn't be the flower girl after all sucked. I framed it as a promotion. You have a more important job now. You're in charge of watching the rings from the front row and making sure no one steals them. She bought it because she's a kid with a beautiful imagination, but it was the first crack in the facade. The first time I realized Ashley's vision didn't seem to have a place for my daughter. The next incident was the dress fitting. Ashley had insisted on all the women in the immediate family wearing a specific shade of dusty rose. She sent a link to a dress that cost more than my monthly car payment. For my mom and my aunts, it was fine. But for Lily, it was a problem. The cut of the dress wouldn't work with the back brace she has to wear under her clothes. No big deal, I thought. I called a local seamstress I knew, a lovely woman who had tailored clothes for Lily before. We bought the dress, and for a small fee, she said she could alter it, adding a few discreet panels so it would fit comfortably over Lily's brace without being noticeable. We even used the exact same fabric from an extra long hem. You literally couldn't tell the difference. I was proud of my problem solving. I sent a picture of a beaming Lily in her altered dress to the family group chat. My mom replied instantly. She looks like a princess. Red heart, red heart, red heart. My aunt. Just beautiful. Ashley's reply came 5 minutes later. A private message. To me. The dress looks different. The neckline is higher. I swear, my eyes started twitching. I typed back. We had to alter it slightly to fit over her brace. You can't even tell. I can tell, she wrote back. The whole point was for all the women to have the exact same silhouette. The symmetry is important for the photos. Can't she just not wear the brace for a few hours? My blood went from 0 to boiling in 3 seconds. Not wear the brace. The custom-molded medical device she needs for spinal support? Did she think it was a fashion accessory? Absolutely not. I typed, my thumbs jabbing the screen. That's not an option. It's a medical necessity. Okay. Chill, she wrote back, as if I were the one being unreasonable. It was just a suggestion. I'm just so stressed with all the planning. I want everything to be perfect. You get it? No, I didn't get it. Not at all. I showed the text to my brother. He just sighed, running a hand through his hair. Look, she doesn't get it, okay? She doesn't have kids. She's in bridezilla mode. Just ignore her. The dress is fine. Please, Chris, don't start a thing. Don't start a thing. That was Mark's mantra. He was so terrified of upsetting his fiancée that he was willing to let her insult his niece, my daughter, over this silhouette of a dress. Again, I swallowed my anger. For Mark. For keeping the peace. I told myself it was just wedding stress. That after the wedding, things would go back to normal. I was an idiot. The rehearsal dinner was the final dress rehearsal for the main event, and I don't mean the wedding. I mean the public display of Ashley's escalating campaign to erase my daughter. The dinner was at a ridiculously fancy restaurant. Ashley had designed a seating chart that was, in her words, optimized for conversation flow and visual balance. What that apparently meant was that Lily and I were seated at the furthest table from the head table, stuck between a great-uncle who was mostly deaf and a cousin of Ashley's who vaped under the table. We were practically in a different zip code. Lily, bless her heart, didn't even notice. She was just excited to be at a fancy restaurant and was coloring on the paper tablecloth. But I noticed. I saw how the head table was perfectly arranged. Bride, groom, both sets of parents, maid of honor, best man. Oh, wait. I was the best man. And I was in Siberia. Mark eventually wandered over, looking sheepish. Hey man, how's it going over here? Great, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. We've got a great view of the kitchen doors. Really adds to the ambience. Ashley did the seating. He mumbled, not meeting my eye. She had some system. Something about putting all the younger, fun people together. I looked over at the fun table. It was all of Ashley's influencer friends, taking selfies and shrieking with laughter. Then I looked at my 10-year-old daughter. Right. Well, we're having a blast over here in the geriatric section. Later, when it was time for informal family photos, Ashley's photographer friend was corralling everyone. Okay, just the happy couple and their parents and siblings now. Mark waved me over. Chris, come on. I started to walk over with Lily. Ashley held up a perfectly manicured hand. Oh, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Let's just do one with the siblings first. It's easier for grouping. She was literally telling my daughter to stay behind. She was excluding a child from a family photo. Lily's face fell. That was it for me. All the peacekeeping, all the swallowing my anger for Mark's sake, it just evaporated. No, I said. My voice was low but clear. Everyone stopped and looked at me. We're a package deal. If Lily's not in the picture, I'm not in it either. Ashley's fake smile tightened. Chris, don't be so dramatic. We'll do one with the kids later. We'll do it now, or we won't do it at all, I said, standing my ground. I felt a dozen pairs of eyes on me. My mom looked worried. My dad looked confused. Mark looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. Finally, with a dramatic, put-upon sigh, Ashley relented. Fine, whatever. Let's just get this over with. Lily was put in the photo right at the end. But the damage was done. On the car ride home, she was quiet. Finally, she asked, Dad, does Aunt Ashley not like me? It was like a knife in my gut. I pulled the car over. I turned around and looked my daughter in her big, beautiful eyes. No, sweetie. Of course she likes you. She's just very stressed out about the wedding. It has nothing to do with you. You are perfect, and you are loved. Don't you ever forget that. She seemed to accept it, but I knew that a seed of doubt had been planted by a woman who was so obsessed with her perfect, symmetrical, aesthetic wedding that she was willing to hurt a child to achieve it. And that's when I stopped caring about keeping the peace. I was no longer interested in protecting Mark from his fiancée's bad behavior. My only job was to protect my daughter. The wedding day itself was fine. Tense, but fine. I played my role as best man. I stood beside my brother. I watched him marry this woman who I now knew, with absolute certainty, was a cruel, narcissistic monster. I smiled for the photos. I helped Lily navigate the crowds. Through it all, I was just counting down the minutes until I could take my daughter home and wash our hands of the whole affair. The professional photos were a whole ordeal. An hour and a half of the photographer telling us to smile, to tilt our heads, to look natural. Ashley was in her element, directing every single shot. Let's get one with just my family now. Okay, now just the bridesmaids. Okay, let's have Lily stand on the end here. She positioned Lily at the very edge of every group photo. It was so transparent. She was making it as easy as possible for the photographer to crop her out later. I saw it. I knew exactly what she was doing. But I didn't say a word. I just let her dig her own grave. For the next 2 days, there was radio silence. They were on their mini-moon at some spa upstate. I was enjoying the peace. I thought, naively, that the worst was over. We had survived the wedding. We could all move on with our lives. And then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Ashley. I opened it, and my world went red. It's one thing to be a jerk to a kid's face. It's another thing to try and be sneaky about it. But this was next level. This was a deliberate, calculated attempt to erase my daughter from a family memory simply because her disability didn't fit the bride's Instagram feed. She didn't just want to crop Lily out. She suggested altering her body to make her look normal, to make her look like someone she's not. She saw my daughter, my brilliant, resilient, wonderful daughter, as a flaw, an imperfection in her otherwise perfect picture, a problem to be fixed in post-production. For about 10 minutes, I just sat there, staring at the screen, a rage building in me so immense I felt like my bones were vibrating. This wasn't about stress anymore. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was about a fundamental ugliness in Ashley's character. I took a screenshot, and then I called my brother. He answered, sounding sleepy and happy. Hey, what's up? I need to talk to you about a text Ashley just sent me. I said, my voice dangerously calm. Oh yeah? What's up? I read it to him, word for word. When I was done, there was a long silence on the other end. Mark, yeah, I'm here, he said finally. His voice was small. Look, I know it sounds bad. Sounds bad. I almost laughed. Sounds bad, Mark? She wants to digitally remove your niece from our family photos. How in the hell does that not sound absolutely monstrous to you? She spent so much money, Chris. She had this vision. She's just thinking about the pictures on the wall. We can get other ones with Lily in them for the album." And that was it. That was the moment I knew my brother was a lost cause. He was so deep in her world of aesthetics and appearances that he couldn't see the blatant cruelty for what it was. He was making excuses for it. He was enabling it. "You know what, Mark?" I said, my voice cold as ice. "You're right. It is about the pictures, and I'm going to make sure everyone sees the whole picture." "What does that mean?" he asked, a note of panic in his voice. "You'll see," I said, and I hung up the phone. I had a plan. I was the best man. I still had a speech to give at the reception that weekend, and they had just rented a brand new, high-definition projector to show a slideshow of their love story. It was the perfect weapon, handed to me on a silver platter. Which brings us back to the reception. As I stood there, microphone in hand, watching the color drain from Ashley's face, I didn't feel regret. I didn't feel guilt. I felt a profound, crystal-clear sense of justice. The room was in chaos. People were gasping, whispering, pointing at the screen. I saw Ashley's mother, her face a mask of horror, staring at her daughter. My own parents looked like they'd been slapped. My mom had tears in her eyes, but they were angry tears. She looked from the screen, to me, to Ashley, and I saw a look of fierce, protective understanding. Ashley snatched the mic from its stand. That's out of context," she shrieked, her voice cracking. "He's twisting my words. I just meant for one photo." "What context?" I boomed, my voice cutting through the noise. "Makes asking to have a disabled child photoshopped out of a family picture acceptable?" The room fell silent again. She had no answer. She just stood there, her fairy tale wedding dress suddenly looking like a ridiculous costume, her face contorted in an ugly sneer. Mark finally found his voice. He grabbed my arm. "What the hell did you do?" he hissed, his face pale with fury and embarrassment. I shook him off. "I did what you were too cowardly to do," I said, looking him dead in the eye. "I stood up for my daughter, your niece." I calmly placed the microphone back on its stand. I walked over to my table, took Lily's hand, and we walked out of that reception hall, leaving a crater of truth behind us. We didn't look back. The aftermath was messy, as you can imagine. The party ended about 20 minutes after we left. Ashley apparently had a full-blown meltdown. Her parents and my parents had a screaming match in the middle of the dance floor. It was the stuff of wedding disaster legends. Mark called me 100 times that night. I didn't answer. He left voicemails, alternating between rage and pathetic pleading. "You ruined my wedding. How could you do this? Ashley is devastated. This was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives." I finally texted him back one simple sentence. She made her choice when she sent that text. I made mine when I read it. The family is fractured, no doubt about it. My parents are firmly on my side. They are disgusted with both Ashley and Mark's weakness. A few of my aunts and uncles think I went too far, that I should have handled it privately. But I disagree. Her cruelty was private for months. It thrived in the shadows, enabled by my brother's silence and my own desire to keep the peace. The only way to kill something like that is to drag it out into the light. Mark and Ashley are still together, from what I hear. But they're pariahs. Her social media went dark for a while after a few wedding guests spread the story. Apparently, child-erasing bridezilla isn't a good aesthetic. I don't know if their marriage will last. I honestly don't care. My only regret is that I didn't stand up to her sooner. I let her plant that seed of doubt in my daughter's mind, and it took a public spectacle to finally root it out. A few days after the wedding, I sat Lily down and told her a simplified version of what happened. I told her that some people are so worried about how things look on the outside that they forget what's important on the inside. I told her that she is more important than any picture and that I will always, always be in her corner. She just looked at me and said, "I know, Dad." And that's all that matters. I'd burn 1,000 weddings to the ground to protect that. So what do you guys think? Did I go too far? Or did she get exactly what she deserved? Let me know in the comments. And if you think this story is wild, you should really hit that subscribe button, because you will not believe what happened when my aunt tried to plan the family Christmas gathering after this.